Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kings of Fantasy Football. I'm your co-host Pablo, and here's my co-host.
Leo.
So, on today's episode, we are going to do some fantasy rankings coming into 2025 season, which is around the corner. So we're gonna essentially do top three of the key positions, and this is gonna be our rankings. Obviously, experts might disagree. So let's start off with quarterback. So number one overall quarterback in my point of view is going to be Josh Allen, even though Lamar had more points per game last year, and a lot of experts have him going number one. I just think Josh Allen has consistently proven that, for the last 3 to 4 years, maybe even more, that he can be the best fantasy quarterback. Last year, he averaged 24.1 points per game, but there were stretches where he was, averaging way more than that. Um, and last year, I did not think that he would do so well, especially since he lost Diggs. So he didn't really have that go-to receiver anymore, but still put up really good numbers. So that's why I have him number one. Who's your number one QB, Leo?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. You can kind of say like Josh Allen's 1A and then Lamar Jackson's 1B. They're both like I think the top two tier with the other guy probably right after. But yeah, I have Josh Allen also there at number one. He even though he did lose Diggs like you said he had to shoulder more of the offense on his shoulders. So that's why you know he's a running threat. When they're in the goal line situation, he tends to to carry it in. So he's definitely gonna be used again as well. They give him let's see if Keon Coleman can improve his game. Uh, they're gonna lean on him. They're definitely gonna have to lean on him to if they're gonna win the division again. So yeah, Allen definitely that one.
Yeah, I think even James Cook last year got involved in the passing game, which really helped him. And normally, I don't see Cook as that catching type running back. So hopefully, with Kincaid being healthy, kind of continues. And kind of like you mentioned, Lamar is more like, right underneath that 1B. He averaged 25.7 fantasy points per game last year. And this year, everyone has him as number one. And he's kind of proven it too the last 2 years. I believe last year he was MVP, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't get to the Super Bowl, but he was still MVP. So I think they added DeAndre Hopkins this year, gives them more wide receiver depth. But everyone drafts Lamar because of his legs. He can break those long running touchdowns, even though they have Derrick Henry in the backfield. So I have Lamar as my number two, and I'm sure that you do too. So my number three is going to be very different from a lot of the Fantasy Pro rankings. A lot of fantasy experts have Jaden Daniels as number three, and my number three is actually Joe Burrow. Burrow averaged 23 points per game last year, but in his ranking, he's not number three by a lot of fantasy pros. And I just think with Jamar Chase, if T. Higgins is healthy, because Higgins missed 4 to 6 games last year, they have a year under Chase Brown's belt, and Chase Brown is being used in the passing game as well. And since they lost a lot of defensive players on the defensive side in Cincinnati, it's going to be an offensive-oriented Bengals again, and I think Burrow's going to have to pretty much exceed expectations. I know last year they fell short of the playoffs. They had a rough start last year, so I don't see that happening again to where they start off 0-4. Who's your number three?
Yeah, Burrow. Yeah, he's definitely in the conversation there. But I do have Daniels there at three after Lamar and Allen. They to me Daniels is has the same running ability as these other guys. Uh, he has he did very well rushing the ball, and this year they added Debo Samuel to the mix. That's only going to help him. Another weapon that he really needed because everything was funneling towards Terry McLaurin. So definitely it's going to be an opportunity for Daniels to even have more, not only the rushing, because that should maintain or probably get better. And now he can throw a little bit more. Definitely has another like a 1-2 punch with the ever the 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 Mr. Zach Ertz that doesn't seem to want to go away. He's coming back for another year. That he had a resurgence last year at his age, over 30, and so as long as these guys stay healthy, that's the probably the biggest question mark here will probably be the health of Debo, that he tends to get hurt sometimes, and Zach Ertz, he was pretty healthy last year. Um, but other than that, he does have the, we're talking about like right now, so he does have the weapons. Um, Also, Austin Eckler's returning, which he's a dynamo in the backfield, receiving the ball. That he scored more points than the starter Brian Robinson. So I see that continue.
So last year, Daniels averaged 22 and a half points per game. So since you have him ranked number three, I'm guessing he's going to have to, surpass that. And the the reason I didn't have him as number three is, we see with the rookie campaigns, no one has film on these guys, and they kind of do really well. We saw that with CJ Stroud, who had one of the best rookie seasons, and then everyone was like, "Man, Jaden Daniels did even better," because of his legs. So I think kind of like that sophomore slump, kind of comes into play. Defenses have more film, um, and I think that's the reason why I don't have him as three. Um, So to have, that same fantasy impact, I don't know if he's gonna finish higher than that. Uh, but we'll see. Like you said, they have, Austin Eckler, they got Debo, so if Debo can be healthy, because I've seen some reports where he was looking, kind of out of shape. But I think he's been working hard to kind of get back into playing shape this off season. So that kind of rounds out our top three. Um, Now let's move on to running backs. So, um, my number one running back, um, even though, the consensus for running back this year is Bijan, I'm actually going to go a different direction. I think with a new coordinator in Detroit, I think Gibbs is going to finally catapult into that, not more of a split backfield, especially since Montgomery got hurt last year. Um, Gibbs averaged double-digit fantasy points in all but one game. 22 years old, so I think this is the year we can finally kind of catapult himself again into that, top three finish. Do you have your boy Bijan as number one?
I do. Uh, 'cause we kind of talked about in the last podcast, he's gonna be the workhorse for this up and coming Falcons team. They're gonna Penix is gonna be behind center, which if you think back, where everybody was kind of intrigued with where Kirk Cousins, he got hurt, didn't really get a chance open up the offense that much, and Drake London started coming along a little bit with Penix a little bit, and so you know they're gonna have an entire off season to get acclimated, and I believe this offense is gonna be soaring this year, and you know Bijan has proven that he's every year he's been getting better and better, and this year I think he's gonna. I know he has some lofty goals to take over, and he's young. These other couple of guys that I know you talked about Gibbs. Gibbs is gonna be probably more involved in the receiving game as well, but he does have Montgomery still, so that's why I think Bijan has more opportunities to be the bell cow here. So that's why I got Bijan. I won.
So Bijan is number 2 for me. Kind of pretty much like everything you're saying. Hopefully with Arthur Smith out of Atlanta, and like you said, if Michael Penix behind center, he did to me really well last year, Bijan, with all the turmoil in Atlanta. So who do you have as number 2?
At number 2, I got Saquon Barkley. The only thing that scares me about Saquon is just the amount of touches he had last season. But the offensive line is still going to be top shelf, and they're there's they're going to be leaning on him. I know Jalen Hurts is there, but he was there last year, and look at the this is the best quarterback and offensive line that Barkley has ever had, and we saw what he did last year, and as long as he stays healthy, there's no reason why he can't do it again. So I got him. I got him at 2.
So you think his 21.2 fantasy points per game last year is just gonna still be like that? And the reason I'm asking because he had a ton of carries last year, and I don't think the Eagles want to do that again. For running backs, he's kind of getting up there in age, even though he's barely 27.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he should be hovering. He should be hovering around there, over 20 points per game PPR.
per game.
I think so.
Okay. Now number 3 for me. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I probably gonna get a lot of hate. I would say hate. But to me, number 3, and I know you talked about this in the last pod. You got him as your top pick in your draft. Number 3, I'm gonna give that to the rookie in Genty, over Barkley, and that's only because again I'm worried about Barkley's workload that he had last year. And I think if you're Las Vegas and you drafted Genty so high, it's because you're just going to give him the ball. That's going to be your game plan. You said in our last pod, Pete Carroll, who would hand the ball out to Marshawn Lynch pretty much every game, a lot. And I feel bad for Genty because they're going to use him a lot, so he's going to get a lot of work. So I have Genty as 3. Who's your 3?
Yeah, I have I love Jonty up there too. But in this exercise, in terms of rankings, I'll go with Gibbs here. He's gonna be last year I believe he had 18.9 points fantasy points per game, and he's gonna be around there too. These guys are they're gonna be what you have said, and what I kind of mentioned it before. There is talk that he's gonna be even more involved in the passing game. So we'll see how that goes, but I think he's definitely going to be in the mix there as a top 3, top 5 running back this season as well. The other 2 guys that I think also we're going to probably end up rounding out the top five is probably Gentry, like you talked about, and kind of like a sleeper is Devon Chain. He's gonna be getting a lot of touches here in Miami. As long as he stays healthy, he's gonna be a dynamo in PPR leagues for sure. So that's someone also to look at that he can make a push to be in the top five.
Okay. Now moving on to receivers. So in this section of the rankings, I'm gonna go a little bit kind of like you said, like a 1A 1B, but I'm more concerned about the 1B just because we know, historically wise, the wide receiver one last year is very hard to repeat that same finish the next season. We've seen that with CMC last year, who finished RB1, and then people were drafting him with number one overall pick, and we saw how that turned out. So I feel like everyone who's already drafted and got Jamar Chase number one overall, I don't see him finishing, and I just think that Justin Jefferson to me is the safer pick just because we saw last year he still finished 16.2 fantasy points per game with Sam Darnold behind center. Everyone was worried that he wasn't going to do well, and I know I was a huge Sam Darnold fan because he was still making JJ fantasy relevant. And I think JJ McCarthy is going to surprise people. People are kind of hesitant because we've never seen him. He's coming off a major injury, but I still think he's going to do really well as far as keeping JJ fantasy relevant. So I have JJ number one. Assuming your number one is Chase.
Yes, yeah, yeah. No, Chase is like you said, it's tough to repeat as the number one. Whether running back or quarterback, whatever. It's tough to repeat as the number one ranking. Uh, but I think that he's still gonna produce they're gonna be funneling the ball to him still. Top. Last year he had 127 receptions for 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns. It's gonna be tough to repeat that, but I still think he's gonna be in that ballpark. He's gonna be the number one target in that offense. Him and Burrow have a super strong connection from their even up to their day back in their days in LSU. So that's gonna continue. Like you said, 1A, 1B is Jefferson. Jefferson is gonna be always he's always gonna be in the conversation as a top two pick. As long as he's healthy. So I'm very intrigued to see what McCarthy can do in this offense. Going to be very, very, very intriguing for sure. So definitely, any one of those two, you have those guys, just insert them and don't even worry about it for the year, only on their bye, because they're going to be in there all year long.
Okay, now for number three, a lot of experts have Lamb as number three, but I'm actually gonna go with Amon-Ra as number three, just because to me he's been much more consistent than Lamb. I think just especially this year with a brand new, if you want to call it, rookie head coach in Dallas. Prescott was hurt, even Lamb got hurt. And I trust Dan Campbell more than I do the new head coach in Dallas. And we always know that Amon-Ra kind of has that chip on his shoulder. Last year he probably didn't do as well as some fantasy managers were expecting. But I think this year he can finally get back to that top three type finish. So I have Amon-Ra as three. Who's your number three?
So my three is actually going to be a little surprising. So, like I said, most people do have CeeDee Lamb at number three, but I'm actually going to go with Malik Neighbors as my top three receiver. Last year he had 170 targets as a rookie, and that's having crappy quarterbacks Daniel Jones, and the rest of those three stooges that were behind center last year for the Giants. So, and even with that, he had 109 receptions for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. So, with all that, now he has Russell Wilson, which is very accurate, and I'm pretty sure most of those throws that was going his way last year were off the mark. So, with Russell Wilson being behind center, with more accurate throws, that's going to give Neighbors more opportunity to convert that monster target that he's going to get again, and he's definitely going to be in the conversation top three uh, uh, receiver this year for sure.
Okay, I like that. I was really hesitant to do someone else's number three, but I'm like, no, I don't want to be biased. So wrapping up things with tight ends, I think we're probably going to have the same number one in Brock Bowers, who had a stellar rookie tight end season. Um, I doubt he'll have the same numbers, especially since it's probably going to be, Genty getting a lot of touches. But I think when they are, having to throw or having to convert, tight ends tend to be that security blanket. Um, maybe him and Gino can establish a good rapport with each other. Um, do you, do you have him as one, or you have someone else?
Yeah, no, for sure. What Brock did as a rookie last year was very impressive. He's another guy that another player that had a horrendous quarterback play, and he came through big time. So definitely out. He's gonna, like you said, he's gonna have a better quarterback in Geno Smith than he had last year, and the sky's the limit for him. He's gonna be the number one target in this offense for sure.
And number two, a lot of experts have McBride as two, but for my number two, I actually have George Kittle, and that is especially with the exit of Debo, and then now, I'm not sure if you saw, but I think Jawan Jennings is either requesting a trade or he wants, more money to stay in San Francisco. So if he leaves, I don't even know who they would have, as receiver or catching weapons in San Francisco. So that's going to leave a lot of targets and who else to throw to besides George Kittle, who had 13.9 fantasy points per game as a tight end. He's getting up there in age, but it's really hard, especially if you don't have one of these guys as a tight end on your team. You're not going to get that same production. Who's your number two?
Yeah, I was torn between like McBride and Kittle, but I kind of have Kittle just a slight nudge, slight hair, right above McBride. Like you said, he's gonna have the opportunity to probably be the number one option in this offense. Brandon Ayuk is out. Deebo Samuel is gone. Jawan Jennings wants the contract. Even Ricky Pearsall, he's hurt, and he's gonna be on the pup, I think, to begin the training camp. So that leaves Kittle, and Kittle definitely has a great rapport with Brock Purdy, and definitely he's gonna be heading, leading the way for these guys. If you have one of these three tight ends are kind of like in a tier of themselves. Laporta last year he kind of fell off because he was in this conversation, and obviously Kelsey has been number one for years, but last year we kind of saw that he's kind of starting to fade a little, and I think he's still in the top 10, and obviously Kelsey, but he's not a top uh, tight end anymore, at least for in my eyes. But so once these three guys go, then I think it's kind of a little bit of a teardrop, and then you go, then the rest of those guys are all kind of like splitting hairs, basically.
Now, the thing that's insane to me in reading this stat, from an article that I found on Sleeper, so McBride finished in finished third in points per game for a tight end, despite not catching a touchdown until week 17.
Yeah. Oh, and I think too,
Can you imagine if he was scoring touchdowns
yeah. No, and he
last
also
year?
and he's also playing without without Murray for the first half of the year. So he's these guys are really good, man. They're the focal point of their offense, and they're gonna all three of these guys are gonna be scoring some points.
Okay, so that pretty much, rounds off tight end. So it's Bowers, McBride, and Kittle, kind of like Leo was saying. After these three, it's kind of, you're not gonna probably get that same production. Now, I do want to at least do like a dark horse here, and I think, even though he's ranked number 7, at least on ESPN rankings, I think in Njoku's, if he has Flacco under center, him and Flacco have a really good relationship. So kind of be on the lookout for that. For anyone who hasn't drafted yet, or all these guys are gone early, I'd be on the lookout for Njoku. You have a
Yeah,
dark horse for tight end?
yeah, definitely in the middle rounds, someone to look at for sure. These guys, he has the opportunity to make a if Flacco's there. So he's definitely one to look at. Another dark horse probably to look at is it's probably TJ Hawkinson. Um, prior to his injury, he was a top 2, top 3 tight end, and they're gonna have McCarthy there, and even though Addison is there, um, I think that this offense is gonna be very high powered, and if he can come back with now that he has an extra year away from after the injury, I think he can maybe return and be. I don't think he can catch those top 3 guys, but maybe move up a spot or two, to because he's gonna be a force in the red zone.
All right. Yeah, I think this, especially if Addison has a good year again, a lot of eyes are going to be on both him and JJ. Kind of leaves Hawkinson open, and then maybe who knows, McCarthy will use him as a security blanket because tight ends tend to be that security blanket, especially it's McCarthy's rookie year. Since last year he was out for the whole year. It'll be his first year under center. So that kind of wraps things up for our fantasy rankings. Hopefully you guys kind of use this to kind of prepare for your drafts. Um, who knows? Some of you may already be drafting. It's pretty much the end of July. So people maybe start drafting early August. Kind of the roadmap. Since it's almost the end of August and about to get into end of July, about to get into August. I'm going to do some mock drafts, kind of actually prepare our listeners for their actual drafts. Hopefully that helps you guys out. We'll kind of do some different ones because PPR is going to be different than a 2QB league. So we'll probably do a few mock draft episodes. If you have any questions, you can reach me on X. That'd be at ArchReaper, ARCHREAPR. Please give us a follow, like the show, share it, help us get the word out there. Leo, where can they reach you?
Yeah, if you also have any fantasy questions, dynasty questions, you can reach me on X at smooth1074.
All right, thanks everyone.
Peace.